Davis of the CVB. It was a great opportunity to really come in and showcase Kerrville. This was to about 12 to 13 members of their leadership team. That included those in economic development, site selection, incentives and finance, music and film office, and then the tourism division as well. I'd like to say that the better EDOs are the ones that go in and provide these updates, usually on an annual basis. We usually go in and talk about some of the assets that we have in the community, anything that has changed since our last presentation, infrastructure, programs, workforce as well. And then what's key is talking about some of the projects that we have in the pipeline, because that gives them an idea as to what we're working on, what they need to help us with as well. And then some of the former projects and their economic impact. For example, Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing. That's a project that they supported and incentivized, to come into Kerrville. So we usually go in there. They'll have questions about job numbers, capital investment, no different than when we're reporting here. And then also the ROI for the project, and are they doing what they said that they were going to do, both for Kerrville as well as the state of Texas. Katie came in and provided a report on her marketing efforts as well as the child care initiative, and then her work with local industry as well. Julie came in and wrapped up with the tourism numbers, hotel stays, visitors. Also, she talked about how the economy really was supported and sustained itself with some of the tourism activity that we saw during COVID. So that was interesting. And then she closed out with the top music city designation, and then the upcoming eclipse. So there was actually a lot of questions and interest about that. Not so much about the job numbers, but that was a hot topic. And so again, the reason it's important is that they are the gatekeepers when it comes to leads and projects that are coming into the state of Texas. I would say about 3/4 of the projects, new companies and announcements that are made in the state come in through their office. So it's to our benefit to be there and our advantage to go in there and really update them on Kerrville and really pitch Kerrville as far as what we have for new companies coming in. Okay, moving on, Project Mount Saddle. The KDC and our city manager, Mr. Dalton Rice, we visited with the executives of the project. This was in Mexico. It provided us an opportunity to really tour the facility and then understand the manufacturing processes within it. We've been there already, but it was very important for our city management to be there as well. If they do choose Kerrville, again, it's important for us to really understand how their operations work, their ebbs and flows, workforce, traffic, so on and so forth. It also shows well as far as the prospect, as far as our city leadership going to the actual facility and meeting with their executives, the CEO, and their stakeholders. And then while we're there, we were also had the opportunity and able to continue our discussions with them as far as the whole process of incentives, the construction timeline, is suppliers, vendors, key management hires. So that was a very encouraging conversation. Once you get to the point where you're talking about upper management, that's usually a good sign. And then the first phase of hiring employees, permits, and then the entities that they would be meeting with, and then engineers, and then also working with a local school district, community college, and the university. So again, all these are good signs. So in all, again, this is just part of our economic development process, going out there and visiting with them, kicking the tires per se, and really just making sure that they have what they need in order to make their decision. And I will say that we are hopeful that they'll be making a decision here in the next couple of months. And again, I hope that it's Kerrville and choose to invest here. We continue to have competition for the project, so we're doing everything that we can to make sure that they invest in our community. That concludes my part of the report, and we'll turn it over to Katie, and she'll talk about some of the marketing initiatives she has, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. Merry Christmas. So I'll be sharing some information on marketing initiatives that we've been working on, some BRE stuff, and some other projects. We have been collaborating with our marketing partner for establishing marketing goals and metrics for 2024. As of right now, some tentative goals that we've outlined are increasing our social reach by 6% each quarter, 4 blogs monthly, increasing newsletter subscribers 50% year over year, You can subscribe at kerredc.com. And we'll be sending out 2 newsletters per month. One of them is a letter from the desk of the executive director. The initial feedback we've received on that is really, people are really enjoying it. We will continue to assist in spreading the awareness of large employers, and we're working to improve our SEO on our websites so that our community shows up in search results for the types of businesses that we're trying to attract. We also received 2 software demonstrations that we are evaluating as a potential tool to help further support our BRE and strategic relationship goals in 2024. As Gil mentioned, we had an opportunity to collaborate with Julie at the CVB. We presented Kerrville and Kirk County to the Office of the Governor, and it was really an eye-opening experience for me to hear from the employees at the Office of the Governor that there are very few economic development organizations that actually take this opportunity. And they gave us really positive feedback about the community of Kerrville, and all of them are going to be reaching out to us to help them make their travel plans. So I think it went well. For BRE, we did receive a request for assistance from an educational startup to help a gentleman apply for an EIN and find out how and where to file sales tax remittance. We are in the process of collaborating with Bob Jones, who was here in October. He was our keynote speaker at the Texas Venture Crawl, and another local leader on the next iteration of our virtual business incubator. Bob is currently involved in some really high-level incubator programs across the country. One of them is MIT's Venture Mentoring Service that he's been involved with for over 10 years. It's a free and confidential mentoring service for entrepreneurs in the MIT community. So it's free, but you have to go to MIT to get there, so there's still a cost associated with it. But Pipeline Entrepreneurs is another organization that he's been a national advisor for over 10 years. And the quote on their website from their executive director explains that it's an organization that has a very direct impact on the growth of entrepreneurialism in the economy of the Midwest. So there's 140 plus entrepreneurs who have gone through their program. They employ more than 2,700 people in Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, and they have raised more than $609 million in outside capital since joining the program. They're doing business in over 85 countries. So that's another organization that Bob has been aligned with, as well as the Nuts and Bolts of New Ventures, which is an MIT J-term course that helps the innovators from MIT learn how to roll out their inventions with some business acumen. So we're very fortunate to be able to partner with him in this collaborative capacity and receive his guidance as we take the next steps on the next iteration of this. We will be hosting our holiday roundtable event for top employers of Kirk County tomorrow evening at our offices. We will be reflecting on the wins from the past year of 2023 and doing some goal projections for 2024 and trying to determine where we can help support these top employers in this next season. For projects, Gil mentioned that we were guests of Mount Saddle, had an opportunity to tour their facility, see their manufacturing in operation. Very impressive to see what they're doing, to think about the opportunities that it could provide for Kerrville and Kirk County. We do have a follow-up call scheduled to continue the discussion of bringing rural air mobility to the Kerrville Airport. And we also have a KEDC board position open. You can learn more and apply at kerredc.com. And that concludes my report.
Katie, can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
I don't know what BRE is.
Oh, good question. I didn't either when I started. BRE is an economic development acronym that stands for Business Retention and Expansion.
Okay.
And it's the angle of economic development that aims to support the existing business owners.
Okay, thank you.
Katie, I want to compliment you and Gil for that recent piece that you had in the Kerrville Daily Times. That's probably one of the most comprehensive explanations of economic development that I have ever seen. It's a remarkable article, and I hope you can continue spreading that word around this community.
Thank you for the kind words, John.
Thank you both. Are there any questions or comments for Gil and Katie? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys, all that you do. All right, item 3B, EIC project status updates.
So I'll be brief with the listing of the projects. We have Ann from Hilltop Securities here to give you all a presentation on sales tax bond process and projects. Well, the bond. I was just texting with Ashley, and so the Blue Cross Blue Shield fitness court, they're out there right now, hopefully finalizing the punch list of items, so we can take that fence down and that thing can be available. So I can continue to walk by it. But one day actually use it. And my wife was giving me grief about that. She said it's not open because I don't want to start working out. So the Peterson project is moving forward. I talked to Corey the other day, and they're plugging along, so they're doing well. The downtown area streetscapes, like a lot of things that we've been affected by at the city, long lead times have been an issue for K-Pub, and so that one's going to drag out longer than we all want. So we'll bring more information back, but we should be getting started. We wanted to be finished before we got to this point in the year, and lead times are just making that a challenging prospect. The River Trail extension, I'm going to say it again, and I really hope to not say it next month, is we're still working through the easement acquisition process. It takes a while. There's a lot of ins and outs to it, but we're getting field notes for each one of the easements, and so we're at the finish line for it. And so I'm hopeful that we'll have bids going out early next year, and we can get started with that portion of the project. And we have the Kelly Theater here on here, but I can speak to. I think we should save that because we're going to speak to that later as a part of the sales tax project process. So with that, I will turn it over to Miss Ann to give you all an update on. I'll give you the great news. So.
Madam Chair, board members, thank you so much for this opportunity to be in Kerrville this afternoon. My name is Ann Berger-Interken, and I'm with Hilltop Securities, and we've had the honor of serving the city and the EIC as financial advisor for a number of years. What I'd like to do before we actually talk about the results of the bond sale is to just go back and touch again about the rating. Part of the process was we submitted documentation to Standard & Poor's Corporation, and Standard & Poor's rates the city as well as the city's waterworks and sewer system. We provided all levels of documentation, including the disclosure document, the resolution, and that type of financial information. They reviewed that, and the rating that the Economic Improvement Corporation bonds received is a AA- stable. When you have sales tax revenue bonds, there is very strong linkage to the city rating, and the city's rating is a AA. That's one of the things they look at. One of the most important components that they look at for the city is the economy, and so you can see really the natural crosswalk between the economic of the city and then how that it makes impacts relative to the EIC. They talked about your proximity to San Antonio. They talked about you've got a steady sales tax base. They thought that the sales tax revenue was going to continue to remain strong, and that they expected to see it continue to grow. Also, one of the things that we undertook a process of, I believe this was discussed at the meeting in November, is we submitted documents to the municipal bond insurers. And what they do for a premium, they take you from the AA minus up to a AA plus, which is what they are rated. And for that, there is a premium. And we're really indifferent as to whether we use municipal bond insurance or not, although there are some investors who do like to see municipal bond insurance. So for our perspective, it's really, is it cost effective or not? And when we analyzed the numbers, it was cost effective. We felt like it was a really beneficial scenario for the EIC because we got two bids and they were right on top of each other. We got a 10.5 basis point from Assured, and from Build America Mutual, we had a 9.5 basis point premium. Just real quickly, remembering the flow of funds, the security behind this is the sales tax revenue bonds. Each month, at the end of the month, those revenues will go into a revenue fund. Once they go to the revenue fund, you will have equal monthly installments of the debt service payment that are transferred to the debt service fund. Currently, there is a reserve fund requirement equal to max annual. However, it does not have to be funded unless the debt service coverage falls below 1.75 times for 2 consecutive fiscal years. You are significantly above that. So at this point in time, we do not anticipate the need for an actual funding of the reserve fund at this point in time, but that is a standard provision for revenue bonds that investors and the rating agencies look to. Once those deposits have been made, the monies then fall to another opportunity to be able to be used for any lawful purpose of the EIC. And you can see that once the bonds close, the proceeds will be put into the construction fund. The transaction summary, the final par amount was $18,625,000. These bonds sold at a premium, which is very common in this type of interest rate environment where we've seen interest rates at higher levels. Investors prefer to have a premium bond with a higher coupon. It helps them when they do their mark to market relative to the investments. The most important part of that is that your deposit to the project fund is the entire $20 million. Even though you have only $18,625,000 in par bonds, the cost of issuance, the underwriter's discount, and the municipal bond insurance are all available to be paid for by the premium of the bonds. And the interest rate bid that we had from the underwriter was a 4.049. On the right-hand side, we show the principal amortization and the coupon and the yield, and then the annual debt service. To kind of put where we ended up in perspective with where we started, when we initially started working with your staff on this back in June, we were anticipating about a 4.5%. There was some interest rate cushion in that, but we believe that that was appropriate given the market conditions at the time. As you may recall, when we came before you in November, we revised that to a 4.62% because we were seeing a trajectory of interest rates rising, and at least at that point in time, there were not any economic influences that gave us a feeling that rates were going to either stay stable or start to come down. However, based on things that are going on relative to the Fed and other economic indicators, we did see interest rates decline relatively significantly, and so ultimately the actual true interest cost is a 4.049. And when we look at that, that's 45 basis points less than the original projections. It's 57 basis points less than what we showed in November. The debt service payment from November is $2.2 million less than projections. The par amount is actually less than we were showing on both of those days, and the benefit of having the whole $20 million available for projects. There's a lot of numbers on this page, and I'm not going to go into great detail. I think the most important highlights from this page are when we look at the revenue bond debt service coverage, it is just about 3.7 times the first several years. After we deduct for your operating expenses and the self-supporting debt that was issued by the city, which is a transfer, you're still projected to have over 2 times debt service coverage, which leaves the ability for pay-go projects, which we know are very important for the EIC board. Just to give a highlight of how the order period went, we use a program called Game Day, and it allows us to see real-time the orders that are coming in. This, if you look across, are each of the maturities, and the blue lines indicate how many orders you received. I'd highlight in '27, we had very few orders, but if you go out to the latter years, we had 5 and 6 times more orders in those maturities than we had bonds. And that's a positive because what that allows us to do is to be able to go in and actually lower those yields. So as a result of what this looked like, we were able to lower the 29 maturity by 1 basis point, the 36 maturity by 2 basis points. We lowered it by 3 basis points in the 30, 33, 37, 38, and 43 maturities, 4 basis points in the 39, 40, and 42, and by 5 basis points in the 41 maturity. What this was able to allow to have happen is that where we started and where we ended up, this reduced the true interest cost by 2 basis points. One of the other things that I thought was really fascinating, and I think that this really is indicative of what we've seen in Kerrville and Kerrville issuers, is the name Kerrville resonates very strongly in the market. If we step back and look at who turned in orders for your bonds, Franklin Advisors, PIMCO, 16th Amendment, Maritime Capital, WPG, these are stellar investors that when we especially have an inaugural issue of a credit, these are the type of investors that you want to see. And we think that that speaks very significantly about the city, the EIC, and then also the performance of the underwriters on this transaction. As you may recall, we were on November 13th, you were asked to put in place a delegation authority, which that delegation authority put in place what I call the guardrails. You gave the 4 corners, and as long as we were able to price within those 4 corners, we were given the authority to move forward. And so just to put in perspective, we were conservative in the not-to-exceed interest rate of 5.5, and as we've talked about, the actual rate is a 4.049. The maximum principal was $20 million. The actual principal is $18,625, but with a full $20 million project fund deposit. The actual and adopted final maturity remained the same, August 15th, 43, and the expiration was May 12th, but this was able to be executed on November 28th, and the designated officer, the treasurer of the EIC, was the one who signed the documents. So we just wanted to make sure that we demonstrated to you that we were in compliance with all of the parameters that this board outlined for us. Just real quickly before I go to the summary, I just want to show you one market chart. This is what we call the Bond Buyers Index of 20 municipal bonds, and this comes out every Thursday. And basically, this is not specific to Kerrville EIC. It just looks at 20 general obligation bonds, but I think that this is an excellent barometer for what's going on in the market. And I would just like to have you focus on the far right-hand side. And so timing is everything. You can see that just, the difference between November 13th and when we were able to effectuate the transaction, there was a significant improvement in the market. And so with that in summary, we accepted that the EIC, we recommended that the EIC accept the bid from Raymond James and FHN with the 4.049%, given the fact that that was within the parameters and so significantly less than what had been projected. Although I am here today, I think it's just extremely important for you to know that there were a tremendous number of people who worked on this transaction, and it was a truly collaborative effort, and that is the reason why we're before you today with such a strong representation of how the bond sale went. Your staff was phenomenal, and we know how much they do all the time, and especially because this was a brand new credit, brand new rating, brand new ordinance resolution, And then also the first time with the rating agencies with this credit and with the Underwriters Council. And it takes a lot of time. There are questions, there's information that has to be provided, and they were always so responsive and so helpful through the entire process. And we are very appreciative and grateful for all they did to help. Bond Counsel, I think you had the opportunity to meet Tom when he was here, and his colleague Jay. We worked with them, the underwriters, Raymond James, FHN. And then finally, before I turn it over for questions, on behalf of myself and Hilltop Securities, thank you. We are so appreciative and grateful also for the relationship that we've had with the city and as such through to the EIC, and very much appreciate being a part of your team and being able to help on this transaction. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, comments?
I'm grateful for your work.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to staff. And, you know, that reminds me, it'll come up in Trina's report that, you know, we do have a contract with the city. We are a standalone organization, and this is a really good example of city staff putting in hours that go towards what we're budgeting for. You're probably not getting paid very much for what you did for us on this one, and we appreciate all of you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you all.
Thank you. Is there anyone signed up to speak on this item?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to our monthly financial report with Trina. And I mention that because we do get criticisms from time to time for having that relationship where, you know, we do put funds into the city, but it's very obvious that the services that are being provided to EIC, which is a completely separate fund from the city, that you guys are going above and beyond for us. So, thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Ann, for all that y'all do. Y'all have saved us through a lot, and they've taught us a lot, and we've learned a lot. Without them, I just don't know that any of this would happen. So we're very appreciative, and thank you very much. Okay, so we're looking at November financials, and mine is very brief, as always. All right, jumping right into statement of activities. On your sales tax for the month came in at $375,000. That was for September sales. This I do not like to report, but it is an 8.6% decrease over last November. But remember, we did have a $99,000 future period payment last month, so that makes up over half of that decrease. And then just looks like a lot of the larger payer categories were just down for the month. We don't have a real direction on that, but a lot of the major categories come in less. We did receive December sales tax, and that was $387,000 for the month, and that's up 3% over last December. So it's a little bit of a wash. We came in 5% over in October, down 8% in November, and then back up 3%. So right now, year to date, you are at $841,000, and our estimate was $848,000, so shy of $6,600. Down in interest income, $33,400 for the month. And you did have an investment that matured on November 17th, and we replaced that early in September, just to keep you mindful of that. Down in your expenditures, just monthly City of Kerrville service contract, and then your monthly debt service transfer. And we did pay out in projects half of that KPUB contract for some of those underground utilities. They did request a payment on that. Your net change for November was $575,000 to the good, with a $767,000 year-to-date net position. All right, on the cash flow, just your November ending cash balance, $6.1 million. Next month, we'll add on your new debt service into these forecasts, and also possibly that Lennar contribution. All right, and then this last one is your financial analysis. Top left, or top chart is your sales tax comparisons. And then the middle there are your project remaining commitments. And then at the bottom are your cash balances. Tax pool, you are earning 5.61%. That's still up. And then your two short-term investments you have are averaging 5.5%. And that's pretty much all we have for November. Happy to answer any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trina. Okay, moving on to item 4A, consideration and possible action. Funding application from Habitat for Humanity, Kerr County, in an amount not to exceed $2.26 million in infrastructure assistance for the proposed Mariposa residential subdivision. And as a reminder, last month we had Mary speak to us from Habitat, the executive director. And I know that we since received a copy of the PowerPoint. We're going to have a presentation from the city, and then Mary's available as well for any kinds of questions that we may want to ask of her.
Madam Chair, we do have 9 citizen speakers signed up.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have presentation, initial questions, and then we'll open to citizen speakers.
Martin, if you could pull up that, no, if you pull up the spreadsheets. So, Madam Chair, members, thank y'all for taking the time. This is an item that we discussed last month. You all asked us to go back, prepare some analysis of the financial forecasts for what this would do to your bottom line based on a few different iterations. Just from a sequential standpoint, Habitat came to us a while back with a request for funding for their Mariposa project, which is 46 homes, or 47 homes, thank you, sorry. 11 of those homes to be built with traditional Habitat models and to be sold at a really reduced price. And then 36 of those homes to be sold as kind of workforce product built with more of a traditional production build process at a faster pace. And so you've seen this in Fort Worth, you've seen it in Austin, yeah, I think in Dallas as well. So it's more of a let's build it to scale and build at speed. However, with the cost of things such as they are, they came back and they looked at their numbers, and out of their $16 million in total costs, 2.26 of that is the cost of the infrastructure, and that was the ask. So Go Team met and reviewed the application. Mr. Bond is the EIC liaison for the Go Team. Made recommendation for them to come before with the full ask and make their presentation. So at this point, we have the analysis, and we have a couple of different iterations to show you what you could withstand, where it would put you in terms of your balance, and then we'll turn it back over for any questions you have from us or of Mary and public comments. So with that, and this is very small, and I know this is really hard for everybody to read, so just for everybody's sake, I'll cut to it. So essentially, I know that when Gary Cochran had asked about it, he wanted to see a few different iterations of what this would look like. So there'll be 3 different versions of this. There is scenario 1, essentially, which is the full ask at $2.26 million spread out over 2 fiscal years. That's 24 and 25. And what we wanted to highlight from a staff standpoint is your ending balances, essentially, that are in yellow on the bottom of that page. Those are as low as you go in this iteration. And so the 26 numbers put you at about $1.7 million, and then up to 2.14 for fiscal year 27, and then fiscal year 28 to 2.15. Basically, what we wanted to show was anything less than the full cost of your expenditures for the year. So we had to have some kind of measurement, and so we used that your expenditures, 100% of your expenditures are about $2.6 million. And so with this full ask, for about a 3-year stretch, you would have a little bit less than that. And if you'll notice in that light green section, these are potential future projects that you see in there. So in '26, you would have $500,000 worth of funding to work with on projects that would come your way. And then that ramps up to 2 million basically on fiscal year 2030. And then we just project it out at that flat rate. So that is scenario A. Scenario 2, which is a $1.5 million grant to Habitat, shows you dip down to that under basically your total expenditures for the year for 1 year in '26. And then after that, you go above that. And then there is a third iteration for a lump sum of $1 million. That would get you, you wouldn't go below your expenditures as they currently sit for now. Each one of those iterations has project expenditures at $500,000 for 1 year in 2026, and then $1 million, $1 million, and then when you get to 2030, that pushes up to about $2 million. So this is all inclusive of Lennar's grant project, the sales tax bond projects, and everything else that you all have in your current portfolio. So that was specific requests from us to bring that back to y'all and show you what those iterations would look like. You had Mary's presentation. I know we're going to have some public speakers on this. With that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. I'm not sure that in Ann's presentation, what triggers again the need for us to put aside a reserve
For your reserve is 1.75 times your debt service, which doesn't include this.
We do have 1.5 plugged in at the bottom for a reserve, and that was based on the old number.
Yes.
So that is already set aside
Oh.
your cash balances.
That is down there on the second column in fiscal year '24, 1.534.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they already set that reserve aside. So, so it's already been taken out.
But we don't need to have the reserve at this point, is that what I understand?
We do not, but we plugged it in the worst case that we need.
Okay. Okay,
So it's already taken accounting for.
okay. Understood. Okay. All right, so, last month, Kyle wasn't with us, and, Greg, you were with us virtually, you did a good job of getting on. And we had a presentation from Habitat followed up with, some clarification in that presentation that was presented to us again. And then we were all to come if we had any remaining questions, clarification, or other things that we wanted to ask of Habitat or of staff. And thank you for putting these projections together for us. And also, before I open it up to public comment and even comment from board first, this item is eligible for executive session. I think it's under item, I circled it earlier. Where is my, I think it's 551.087, is that correct? So if, after hearing public comments and answering questions from Habitat, if someone is so inclined to make a motion that we go into executive session, we can consider that as well. All right. So let me open it up for questions to either Mary or to Michael regarding what we want to know about this project at this time. We all feel very clear about the ask.
I guess I do have one question for Mary. So understanding that there's traditional Habitat homes and then kind of this new model that we're looking at, that's gonna be 36 of the 47 lots. How does the grant improve the affordability of this new product as opposed to what we've kind of historically known about traditional Habitat homes?
Well, it would be 48,000 a house. And what that's gonna help us do is to help us build an affordable product so that we can sell it. The maximum we can sell it is 272 as dictated by HUD. And so if we can sell it for that price, the number that we had in there that we could build for 245,000 each house was just hard cost, and it didn't have any contingency salaries or soft cost. So we really anticipate breaking even. We don't necessarily think that there will be any resources, and if they are resources left over, we will directly roll it into the next project to do that. So, but we'll still be subsidizing our traditional Habitat that, we sell for 135 to 140,000 a house.
And as I understand, on the traditional homes, you pass along only like 7,500 of the lot cost as part of the cost of the home that the homeowner reimburses over the term of the mortgage.
Right, yeah, that was a decision that was made by the board 10
And
years
there's
ago.
not any kind of, anything like that similar on this, on the, kind of the new,
Well,
the other project.
this new model, by having the upfront capital, helps us build quicker, and then we will, pay back any debt that we have or that kind of thing through vertical construction loans. And so any percentage that we don't get from the public-private partnership just diminishes our sustainability. It just means higher interest rate, compounding, construction cost increases, and so it just takes away from any ability to have any other resources to move to the next one.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense.
Well, you had mentioned that there are 4 other places that are doing this model, Austin, Fort Worth. I couldn't remember the other 2.
Right.
So what are you hearing back about those? Or have they been around long enough to get any kind of information back about how they're working and how they're working as a neighborhood?
It's been really well received. Fort Worth might have been the first one in Texas that's doing it, but it's also across the country in Habitats. And Fort Worth started out with doing 10 houses the first year and then 15 and 25, and they progressively have grown without any problems at all. And it seems it's a very successful model, and it's working across the country. And what makes it work is this public-private partnership of having the investment from both sides and then being able to leverage that. And Habitat's strength is building collaboration and building and fundraising, so we can leverage that fundraising. If this land is fully developed, it's more attractive to a lender, that kind of thing. So you leverage that success that we already have.
And what about the people who live there? I mean, what kind of feedback are you getting from the neighbors? in the neighborhoods?
They love it. They can't even tell. And in fact, in the one that I was at Austin Habitat when we built the one. One of them, there's 2 or 3 going right now. We were standing in front of the Habitat homes, and they said, "Where are the Habitat homes?" And so most people couldn't even tell. So the house, Habitat house 1 street over sold, for $900,000. So it blends in, and that's the magic, not magic, but that's the benefit of the model, is blending in with the rest of the neighborhood.
I have one other question in that regard. You have an architectural review committee, and so are the people who are purchasing the workforce housing, are they getting their own builders to build those homes?
No, we would subcontract. We'd be the general contractor and subcontract those homes and build them. But what the architecture review committee, they're designing the homes, and then they'll be more of safeguards, if you will, of color palettes, things that you can do to your house addition. It's so it keeps the standard high.
Oh, so over the course
Moving
of
forward.
the ownership?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thank Thank
And
you.
we have an active HOA too, but we'll have both of those going at the same time. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
All right, citizen speakers.
Shelby Presley.
Oh, and as a reminder, just when you come forward, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Shelby Presley, 307 Bow Drive. So, when I didn't make the last meeting, but I watched the video that y'all have on y'all's website. And the first thing that came to my mind was, wait a minute, there's some problems with their plan here because to be a charitable organization, to do housing, it has to be mainly done by volunteers. It's per the Texas Property Tax Code. Section 11181, charitable organization improving property for low-income housing. Number 2, on A2 reads, the qualifications would own the property for the purpose of building or repairing housing on the property, primary with voluntary labor to sell without profit, or individual or family satisfying organization, low income, and other eligible requirements. So there's a problem right there with if they're gonna build them, sell them for profit, have builders come in and do it and make money off of it, because it states primarily volunteers. I do know, I've talked to, when I first saw that, I called ad valorem tax attorney who works with entities and appraisal districts to approve, and that was the first thing he brought up. I knew this was in here, but he brought it up without me prompting him. He said, there's a problem with that model. And just so you know, there is, down here further in the same section, if they were to do that, and there's actually, they can go back from when it was exempt to the time that it sells, and there's a 12%, they go back for every year, they owe the taxes, back taxes, and there's a 12% interest on it. So there's some issues with the model that I heard in the presentation on the video. Okay, if there's something different, they've changed every time we've talked to them, so I don't know. But there is an issue legally. I have contacted somebody at Travis that I know, and they're looking into the way they did theirs. And they said they do have some other projects going on similar to this, and they're gonna look into them. But this came from an attorney, that I backed it up from an attorney to ask him, and he said, no, there's also another section 23 in here that is questionable, but there's some problems with the model and the presentation that I saw online. In other words, per the property tax code, having builders do it and make money, that's not part of, they're out of line with their charitable organization, so. I know y'all asked some really good questions on the video that I saw, and it kind of was part of, hey, wait a minute, y'all are becoming developers now, or what? So anyways, I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
Darcy Presley.
Darcy Presley, 307 Bow Drive. I recently had a meeting or talked with Habitat for Humanity, and we were trying to come up with some options. And I know I talked to you all last time I was here about, you giving money for infrastructure, for allowing them to put a road that would go through the neighborhoods that I live in, that they're going to build, and the people above us. And we were trying to come up, and I think Brent Hunter and Mary Campagna asked about an emergency access gate. And Dalton Rice also sent me an email explaining why the road has to go through for emergency purposes. That was what I was going to talk about, but now I've switched gears. I guess this is what brings me to my point. I just wonder who is going to buy these workforce houses. Mary Campagna, says, we're targeting teachers, nurses, and people like that who are in the workforce, but I beg to differ. I gave a very simple survey to 20 of my colleagues, teachers that I know, and asked them, I gave them this exact plaque that was presented right here. I asked them, would you purchase a house if you needed a house, one of these workforce houses that they're planning on building in the Mariposa community? And only one teacher out of the 20 said yes, but they would not buy one on this zone, because I divided into zones, where that road would go through. Basically, most of them said no because the road going through the subdivision would make it too busy and too dangerous for their families. Many felt the price was too high for that type of house and the lots were too cramped. In addition, several said they would not want to buy the house that was across the street from traditional Habitat housing because it may affect their resale opportunities and their values. So for this reason, I'm asking the EIC board, do you really want to give funds to a group's project that is supposed to be improving neighborhoods? There's only 11 Habitat, 36 are private. They're going to be in the private market, competing with other private builders, and now this nonprofit charitable status that they may lose, according to Texas Tax Code 11.181, could put a little damper on things. So the project seems to have a lot of challenges, and it just doesn't make sense to give money to such a risky development at this time. That's what I think.
Brad Barnett.
Brad Barnett, President and CEO of the Kerrville Area Chamber of Commerce, 1700 Sidney Baker, Suite 100. About 2 years ago, the Kerrville Chamber undertook a Housing and Development Committee, formerly Mayor Blackburn's Committee on Housing. We felt like the Chamber, we do a good job of being that convener, bringing together people, developers. And about a year and a half ago, we did bring in the head of the Fort Worth Habitat for Humanity. They went through this process. We talked through it. Like Mary said, you guys have had this presentation. There's a lot of advantages to it. Right now, we are really desperate for workforce housing. I mean, how many of our members come to me on a weekly basis talking about, the challenges of keeping, retaining employees? I know, talked to a couple of bankers that have clients that are worried that they're going to have to move their businesses out of Kerrville if they can't find housing. So I think we're so desperate for housing right now. I think this is a very good option. Having seen a lot of the presentation that the projects they did in Fort Worth, I think it's at a really high level. I think it can really fill in a gap that we desperately need. And I think, again, public-private partnerships, I think are oftentimes overlooked. So I think this is a great opportunity. It's something the city can't afford to do on their own. Obviously, or should they, but partnering with a group like Habitat that has that experience and has a track record, I think can be positive for Kerrville. So just encourage you to support projects like this. Thank you.
Chuck Kemp.
My name is Chuck Kemp. I live at 314 Bow Drive. I'm going to change it up a little, given some new information we heard just now. But I'm a homeowner at Weston Home Place, which is a well-planned, very well-executed neighborhood comprising 30 medium-price size homes with excellent curb appeal. It's a valuable quality of life asset. I was going to make a case that if we partner together and Habitat were to sort of up their game, that we could have a successful deal that would make everyone happy. But it seems like that the sticking point is this $272,000 cap. Because this is it. That's the only thing we've seen. And if you've seen it and you notice the drawing has been downsized and the scale no longer applies and the dimensions are unreadable. I refigured the size. This is a 3-2, one-car garage, 900 square feet of living space, $272,000. It answered my question too, why it has specifications for a subsidized housing, which also adds to the cost, and it caps their ability to charge anything more than $272 when the current housing market certainly demands more. And I'm going to give you an example of what's available for a little more. Okay, based on, and please, if I am wrong about the 900 square feet, because I wasn't, when I received that, the dimensions were unreadable, the scale was not applicable, so I had to refigure it. Based on the current market, would you buy this house, a 3-2, one-car garage, $272,000? You think a banker would want to loan someone money to purchase it? Would a banker fund this project based on those numbers? I'm going to give you some other numbers in a second. Okay, is it a wise expenditure of $2.26 million of taxpayer money? Now, before I go any further, see, we were told we were supposed to be all for this. And at the very beginning, they said, oh, well, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. I said, sure, I don't believe you. Okay, go over and compare this, a 900 square foot, 3-2-1, with what's there. Okay, the home building business is driven by market acceptance, convention, bottom line costs. Let's look at a competitor. Is that me?
Yes.
You go over to Lennar, they can give you a lot better deal.
Thank you.
Peter Lewis?
Thank you, Peter Lewis, 240 Galbraith Avenue. As chair of our Construction and Development Committee, I'm proud to stand here tonight and reinforce and expand upon what you've already heard from several different speakers, Mr. Hornis and Mary when she spoke. Habitat for Humanity is indeed, we are expanding our library of attainable housing products. And with these new home designs, and by leveraging local partnerships in both the construction and lending communities, we are committed to continuing to provide high-quality, attainable homes by managing our cost and delivery methods. Through these partnerships that I just mentioned, we have already vetted the cost of our infrastructure, our horizontal and our vertical development, and we are very comfortable with the numbers that we have presented. Earlier this year, with the generous support of members of the community, Habitat purchased the 8.5 acres that will be Mariposa at Bow Drive and Weston Loop. We've been searching for properties for roughly a year, and frankly, had kissed a lot of frogs without finding any princes until this site became available. Its gentle, buildable slope, convenient location, and reasonable price checked every box for us. Mariposa will feature unique single-family homes with designs which all complement homes in the adjacent neighborhoods. Each home will feature contemporary enhancements, both inside and outside the homes, incorporating a blend of durable exterior materials and a variety of floor plans and exterior designs. Habitat will govern, as you've heard earlier, by an active HOA and an architectural review committee to ensure that the neighborhood remains a haven for all its residents. Also, as was noted earlier, of the 47 lots are comprised 11 traditional homes to meet the needs of families at the 60% below median income, and 36 homes for families in the 60 to 80% range. Lot widths will vary from 45 to 60 feet, which are very generous, up to generous lot size, encompassing different lots in different shapes and sizes, even including pie-shaped lots to create an attractive neighborhood layout. Each homestead will feature a 6-foot privacy fence on 3 sides of the property and landscape designs which will enhance the curb appeal throughout the community. The preliminary plat has been approved by the city's Planning and Zoning Commission, paving the way for the final design and engineering and construction of the site in anticipation of building our first new home at Mariposa. Thank you.
Brent Hunter?
Brent Hunter, 120 Springwood. Madam Chair, members of the board, we are grateful for your consideration of this proposal. I've served as Habitat for Humanity Kirk County's president of our board of director for the last 5 years, and I'm also the vice president of product development and delivery at James Avery. So in both roles, I've been in the unique position to be directly impacted by the critical need of affordable housing in our community, as well as the practical challenges of growing supply. So in formulating our board's strategic 5-year plan, our board challenged itself to create a strategy in response to 2 factors. Number one is the need is significant. During our most recent family selection cycle, Habitat received over 450 applications for 10 available homes. Number two, our historical approach, while effective, economically limits our ability to scale. Our traditional model of fundraising to finance 100% of the construction costs and finance a 0% mortgage was a one-dimensional yet effective approach. We needed to be open to proven best practices to increase the number of homes constructed. We leveraged best practices by Habitat affiliates across the country that have scaled by serving workforce families with affordable homes that are sold to deserving families at closer to market prices. Any resources generated from these projects are then reinvested back into the community to build additional attainable homes and/or fund land acquisition and development. The proposal you're considering for the Mariposa community represents a unique opportunity to partner with a proven nonprofit and accelerate the supply of attainable housing in our community. We hope that you have found the proposal that we have submitted to be both strategically thoughtful and tactically thorough. One important element of the proposal that I would like to expand on is the sustainability of this project. One economic definition of sustainability is practices that support long-term economic growth without negatively impacting social and environmental aspects of the community. Based on this definition, here's why the proposal meets all of the criteria. Number one is socially and environmentally, the Mariposa community complies with all development requirements. No variances have been requested. Regarding economic growth, our community will benefit by the estimated $8 million that will be invested with local businesses. And upon completion, we estimate that the property tax base of the Mariposa community will approach $16 million. Lastly, in contrast to other investments that the EIC has made with other private entities, worthy by the way, as a nonprofit, any residual resources generated at the end of this project will be reinvested into a future community here in Kerrville. I'd like to leave you with a few additional critical points regarding this project. At our current rate, Habitat runs out of land for home construction in 1 year. The $2.26 million proposal represents 14% of our total budget for this project. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Mary Campana?
Madam Chairwoman and Board, you know who I am. 820 Tivy Street is my address. This is part of our 5-year growth plan, and with this $2.26 million, it's a capacity investment for us. It's going to help us scale our program. It's going to help fuel the Habitat's road to sustainability, and it's going to empower local community collaborations. It's going to assist in Habitat's innovation. Our workforce housing, it is more expensive to build with upgrades and garages. It's about $50,000 more a house. So that's part of why that expense is more for that. With that, the mix, you know, there's 11 and there's 36. We're increasing our house production 5 times. The message when I came to town was you got to build faster, Habitat. So we've been building 5 homes for the last 2 years that I have been here, 1.5 years. And then we want to increase to 15 homes a year. So it's helping us scale and build faster. And we're serving a unique population. We're serving that niche between 80% of median family income and 60%. It costs more private-public investment to serve that population of that. And then our collaboration is by cutting cost and amplifying resources and expediting the delivery. That's what the collaboration. We work with 16 different local contractors and 6 local financial institution. As they've said, all of our money rolls back in. The hard cost is the 245. We still have soft cost salaries and contingency. We anticipate a break-even situation with the 272, which is dictated by HUD. Without the full request, it's time and scope. How that's gonna play out is we're gonna have to reconfigure our infrastructure plan, and we're gonna have to look at a phased approach. Likely, we wouldn't be able to start January, February is what we would like to do. It'll be increased cost, negative impact on our timeline. When we're gonna have to evaluate our capacity of if we can add this workforce product. We know we could continue to build to 5 a year at that pace. If we raise the percentage of the public investment, it takes away from the sustainability like we talked earlier. And I think the economic impact of our Mariposa project is $16 million for Kerrville. And it's about homes, jobs, and partnerships with local businesses. And I can't guarantee that we're not going to come back to EIC for another ask, but I do strongly believe if I do come back, it's to grow and expand our program even more than we are asking to do right now. So, okay, thank you.
Tabor McMillan.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for being here. I'm Tabor McMillan, 1831 Lois Street. I have had the pleasure of serving on the Habitat for Humanity Board for the last 5.5 years. The last 2.5 have been as treasurer. The grant request before you represents 2.26 million. Of that is basically our infrastructure cost for development. We've gotten several bids for those figures. What that full request or full grant request would do would allow Habitat for Humanity to basically own $3 million of developed land, own it free and clear. What that allows us to do as a board is to go out and start fundraising for vertical construction. What we're not able to fundraise in vertical construction, that allows us to have $3 million of developed land that we can go and we can approach a bank for a line of credit or something similar, that we would be able to get a loan facility in place so that we could go and do vertical construction financing. So that's the reason for the full ask there. If we, like Mary mentioned, if we don't receive the full 2.26, we might have to go back to the drawing board. We might have to take a phased approach. Our charge as an organization is to try and get families into houses. And as Brent mentioned, we had over 400 people apply for 10 houses. You guys know, we all know, I think everybody here in the room knows how important it is and how big of a need it is for affordable housing in Kerrville. It's one of the biggest issues that we face. And we are trying to do our part to combat that, to play a part in furthering Kerrville, because we all love Kerrville and we want the businesses here to thrive because they're able to have employees that can live here and grow up here. And so we're just trying to do our part to allow that to come to fruition. Lastly, as Mary also mentioned, the reason for the ask, we are targeting 60 to 80% median family income. We're not targeting, the 100 to 120% that other builders do. As such, we have to be able to build these houses for an affordable price. And that really puts the importance on us to try and raise as much money as we possibly can to get as much assistance as we can. With that being the case, we kindly request the full approval of the $2.26 million. Thank you all for your time.
Bruce Strachey.
Bruce Strachey, 821 Earl Garrett Street. I first sold this property to Hill Country Home Opportunity Council. That was about 10 years ago. That didn't happen. I then sold this property to a home builder, Tango Homes. That didn't happen. He then sold this property to Schmidt Development. That didn't happen. Now it's Habitat's turn. And the beauty of this one is we're talking about more houses under $300,000 based on the USDA guidelines for median income here in Kerr County, which is a federal program. So that's where that number comes from, 272. And it'll grow over the years. And these houses, if we move forward with this, will probably start being moved into in about 3 years. About the same time, the first 60 to 70 Lennar houses are coming on the market as well. So instead of having 60 to 70 workforce houses in 3 years, we're going to have over 100. And these houses are on lots that are all at least as large, if not 20% larger than the Lennar houses. These are going to be nicer homes in a nicer location. This is a site we have talked about for workforce housing for 10 years. This is not a surprise. The road through is being driven by the city. That actually costs more money to do than to do a lock gate with an access. That's not being driven by Habitat. This is a project worthy, just like Lennar was worthy. You all looked at Lennar, and we created that public-private partnership for a profitable company. This is a nonprofit that actually invests in Kerrville. They use local contractors. They use local suppliers. They use local banks. And they want to help local people. And anything they make on these homes is going to come back to us. I think you guys need to support this. This is a good project. It's been long coming. I'm also on the housing project with the chamber. We've been talking about this since 2019. We've tried to encourage folks like Habitat to bring something. Mary came here from Austin. She's done this before. It's new to Kerrville, but it's not new to Mary. It's Habitat all over the country is taking some houses on that volunteer basis, and they're doing a lot more houses that are marketable. This is a good project.
He knows his time.
Madam Mayor, we do have one citizen speaker that
He gets to
turned
be mayor
in.
now.
I'm sorry.
I don't want that title.
Madam Chair, we do have one citizen speaker that turned in a citizen form after the item has been read in record. So did you want him to speak or no?
We can allow.
John Carlson?
We can allow him to speak.
Sorry, I'm used to court more than I'm used to these type of meetings. My name is John Carlson. I live at 200 Ridge Road. My office is at 260 Thompson Drive. I've been the Habitat attorney since 2005, and I just wanted to say, from a personal standpoint, this is one of the most amazing organizations I've ever worked with. I remember back in 2005, Habitat was, they had houses kind of piecemeal all over the city, and we were building these houses for, you know, $30,000, $40,000. Obviously, times have changed a lot, and when we were able to get into Maud Jennings, it changed the entire game plan, and now we're moving into, you know, another development. And the thing that I've been able to see, I get to close all of these transactions. So I get to sit across from the new homeowner, and I get to look in their eyes and congratulate them, and, you know, show them all the documents and everything. And one of the things that I realize is that, you know, these people would never in a million years qualify for a home, in a million years. And I don't think that we should ignore that fact and the amazing things that Habitat has done in this community and can continue to do in this community. So I would ask you to take that into account as we move forward. Thank you.
That is the end of the citizen speakers.
Good. After hearing citizen speakers, are there any, anyone need any clarification or did that bring up any further
I
questions?
got a question. So is that 900 square foot number correct?
that came from. Our houses are 1,200 to 1,400 square feet,
Okay.
and the smallest lot's 45 feet.
And that's heated and cooled, not including the garage?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Well, can you show that plan?
Good question. Sir, we're past public speaking right now, so that was a question that was directed specifically from the board. Okay.
Sure, I have a question for anyone representing Habitat, maybe John or anyone there, but could you please respond to the comments that were made earlier about the risk to the Habitat, if I would understand it, tax status?
If you want to speak, if you'll go to the microphone.
I don't understand. Anyway, we're the builder, and we're gonna be selling the houses. The builders outside, partners that we have are gonna be working with us. So I'm not quite sure how a builder would make money. Our nonprofit status is to build affordable housing, and we're governed over our international office as well. And it doesn't have anything to do with volunteer labor. That is a way to keep costs down, but it's not part of the charter per se. There are some affiliates that are subcontracting houses around the country with that. So we're a nonprofit. We're not making a profit, and so there isn't a tax. I wasn't quite sure what that.
You worked with the same model previously, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you have issues with tax status in the previous models?
No.
So is your view that's a non-issue?
Right. I didn't really even understand what the point was, but.
Can I
Yeah.
ask her a question? So, when you were speaking, you kind of made a distinction between the Habitat and the workforce, and it sounded like the workforce were going to get a garage and the Habitat houses were not. Is that how that is?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
And that's just because, that's how we're trying to blend in with the neighborhood. We're trying to they'll have upgrades, they'll have garages, it'll be a different product than the traditional Habitat. And it's because someone at the 80% median income can qualify for a more expensive house. Our homeowners at 60, they're not able to do that.
And so, and that makes a difference in whether or not they can have a garage. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And that one's Volunteerville, yeah,
Okay.
kind of thing.
Okay, we've been presented with 3 scenarios. We've had 10 citizen speakers and the opportunity to ask questions, and we've gotten information from Habitat, I assume, that we need for deliberation. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session, and I lost it again, under item 551.087.
I move.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion, a second, all in favor? Okay, that's everyone. So, do I gavel this? At 5:19, we're going to go into executive session for deliberation.
Can you go upstairs or stay here?
Where would you like us to go? Go upstairs? Okay,
It's the purview of the board.
head upstairs. Let's go upstairs.
Quick bathroom break.
Yes, take a quick break on your way.
About the, assuming you all want to discuss the purchase agreement.
On the,
Mega Creek.
on the Light Creek? On the Light Creek?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
551.071.
correct. So, assuming that we're not in executive session yet?
Right.
Okay.
I'll move that we also include that in our executive session.
Item number
5A.
071? 4B. 071, 072.
071072. Okay. All right. We have a second. Do
Who's
we,
second?
Kyle?
Okay.
All right. All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
Just right.
At 6:35, I'm going to reconvene the meeting of EIC. We're adjourned from executive session and now in our regular session. And we are looking at item 4A, coming out of executive session. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend going to public hearing on this issue in an amount not to exceed $2.26 million.
Second. 2.6, isn't it?
2.26.
Second.
I'm sorry, who's second?
Joe?
All right. So, any further discussion? This means that next month will be consideration, public hearing to discuss an amount not to exceed $2.26 million if this motion passes. Are there any other
I would just like to say, we had a lot of discussion about the topic, a few concerns. Obviously, it's a lot of money, so we had a lot to talk about. I think city staff is going to visit with y'all about those concerns to make sure you're prepared for that next month when we come back.
All right, if there's no more discussion, all in favor, please let me know by raising your hand. Okay, motion passes. And item 4B, purchase sale agreement between the City of Kerrville, EIC, and Megacrete Real Estate LLC.
Madam Chair, members, thank you all for taking the time. We gotta start shortening up these meetings. We're keeping y'all here late each time. So as Gil discussed in the meeting previously, Lightcrete, which is now going to be called Megacrete here in Kerrville, is a joint venture. And so we have been negotiating with those folks, and we're to the point now where we're ready to finalize the agreement. So let's just go quickly over what the deliverables are. From EIC standpoint, it would be a grant to Megacrete of the 86 acres that EIC owns adjacent to the airport. Part of the deliverables, some of which are within the purchase and sale agreement itself, is to build a 75,000 square foot building, finalize their inspection within 120 days, implement the rezoning process, and staff will assist with that. We've been talking that through with them. Sign the restriction agreement, and this part is in here in the presentation, but we got notice of that was registered with the Secretary of State as of December 6th. So it's already done, that piece. Within the restriction agreement, the portions that you're going to see in there are at least 45 jobs with a target of 60% of those jobs coming from residents of Kirk County. Minimal taxable value of $25 million. They'll be dark sky compliant. Their point of sale will be here in Kerrville. Would have skipped that other portion is not going to be included about the sales revenue. The screening for their neighbors will be a part of that agreement. EIC will have approval, and to the extent that we do this, the exterior elevations of their buildings, so you'll get a chance to kind of review their architecture and sign off on that. Repayment of the grant, his clawback provisions are all listed within there, and you all have a 3-year restriction on any of the sale of that property, so you all have the right of first refusal, or ROFRA, as it's known in the business, apparently. So we were working up until Friday afternoon after the agenda had posted on changes to the contract and amendments. And so what we had presented earlier are changes that you would want to see reflected in there. Section 6 of the purchase and sale agreement has an underlined section that we will not want in the contract, which basically deals with rollback taxes should there be any. That provision would be stripped out of the contract. Section 8, which is already complete, but wasn't as of writing of this, and the publishing of the agenda on Friday, registering in the state of Texas, which they've done. The boundary description of the property in the survey will be included in Exhibit A. And within the exhibit agreement, 6.1, which is an addition Mike added, that basically says that they will comply with all state and federal law. Section 6.9, Mike, what does that refer to one more time? Let me see.
Oh, that's the repayment.
And say at section 6.9, which basically says if their repayment of the grant is paid out by Megacrete to the EIC, that portions of the agreement would be null and void. So we're happy to keep those portions in there. And the last piece in there is the Exhibit A. So those were the only changes to the agreement that staff recommended that we finalized with the organization. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I would move that this board accept the agreement as presented by the staff and recommend it to the council.
Second.
Before we vote, do we have anyone signed up to speak on the item?
No, ma'am.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion further? Okay.
Madam Chair, let me just add, I think for the record, that this project is very unusual, and it's probably something that this community, or any community this size, is going to see at best once in a generation. It's an established company, international company, high-tech manufacturing, and it's going to be an exporter. And it's also going to make Kerrville a headquarters city. And those are all boxes you check off in terms of what constitutes a really desirable economic development project.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. All right, are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, please let it be known by raising your hand. All right, that motion passes. Very good. Item 5A, seems like we've talked about all of the items on item 5A. Oh, those are all the eligible for executive session.
I think we've
Where
talked
I
it out.
jumped ahead. Okay.
You got to do it in order.
I know, I'll do it in order next time, I apologize. I was just ready for some executive session today. All right. We did that too, we've already done number 6, so I'm getting us out of here. All right, items for future agenda. Don't hear anything.
Can I ask one thing? The March EIC meeting, did you discuss when that will be held because of spring break? Or?
Is our regular meeting on the spring break week?
That we'll clarify it. We have January. So January's meeting will be on the 8th. So it's a week early than it normally would be because of the holiday. And then the same for February's. But
Why was January's moved up?
so
Martin Luther
MLK
King.
is on the.
I think we might as well just do the second Tuesday at this point.
You have quite a few windows in there that the problem in it is it always is that
I know,
that
it's
is the
just
day
a
before the city
timing.
council meeting. So
Got March on the 18th.
yeah.
So we haven't changed March, but you're saying that's the week of spring break?
That I do not know. I
No,
just
spring
know
break's
that
before
the
that.
January was changed to the 8th, and the February was changed to the 2nd also, the
And
second.
did you send those
Tues-
out to
the
us
second
already?
Monday?
We'll come back to y'all with if
Yeah, we got
there's a
time.
challenge on
Yeah.
that one to move
Okay.
into a different date if we need to.
I think the KISD spring break is the week before.
Okay, so the 18th will work.
Yeah, I think so.
Great.
That's the day
Thank
after
you.
St. Patrick's.
All right,
Motion to adjourn.
all right, I'll take a second on that. I'll
Thank
second
you,
it
everybody.
myself.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Y'all are patient.